Welcome to episode 181 of the Confidence Through Health podcast. This episode is a little different. We talk about a very tough subject. Unfortunately, it's a sensitive subject, and so I want to make sure you're aware of that. That I brought on Misha, who is the co-founder with her husband of the Suicide Watch and Wellness Foundation. They are based in Mississippi, but looking to go nationwide with what they're passionate about, and it is helping people who are struggling, who are considering suicide. And we talk about, we do spend some time talking specifically on youth, on the teenage through the early 20 years. Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month is coming up. Actually, it's right now as of September, and so it's a hot topic. It's a relevant topic. It's, as a parent of a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old, it's something that touches my life because I see that the difficulties that they have and how they could easily go down that road. In high school, I lost a friend every year to suicide. And so it's something that I understand that it's needed. I understand that it's getting worse, unfortunately. And we talk about that. And we talk about what parents can do, what teachers can do, what adults can do, what the community can do to help with this issue, because it is an epidemic, as she mentioned. And I wasn't even aware of that, but it has been labeled an epidemic in our country. And it's something that we have to address. And so listen to this episode, pay attention to the content, help Misha and her husband get this information out. Help your community. If nothing else, talk to your kids. Talk to the kids around you. Reach out, because they need people in their life. We all need people in our lives, but they especially need people in their life because they're still developing. They're still trying to figure this out. They're still trying to figure out who they are, what they want to be, and they've got so much life in front of them that it's a tragedy if they cut it short. And so help us, help the community, help the nation, help the world by helping these kids that are struggling, and adults, right? And adults that are struggling with issues and are considering taking their own life. It's a waste when it's too early. We all know that. We all feel that. And so let's help get on the front side of that. Join Misha and let's make sure that everybody is okay. So welcome, Misha, to the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
So we're going to talk about suicide and the foundation that you created, Suicide Watch and Wellness Foundation.
Yes.
But before we get into like the meat of that topic, like tell us, why is this a passion for you? Why is this something that you wanted to start and bring awareness around?
Well, I must tell you that my story is very straightforward of how it happened. Is that I was on a bus. We were going from New York to New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And the bus driver said, as we were crossing the George Washington Bridge, do you know more than 10 people jump off this bridge every day?
Every day?
Every day.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, what? And he said, wow. But the thing that was that really got our attention was when he said that the local authorities literally pay newspapers and magazines not to report it because it would interfere with tourism.
Oh,
That's
wow.
what it was like. Yeah. And now that got me angry. And I was like, no. So my husband and I are partners in crime.
Yeah.
So he was talking to both of us. And what happened is that we decided to do some research because we believe in when you hear something, you say something. When you see something, you do something.
Right.
And so what we did is we started to do some research. And we found out that according to the Center for Disease Control, the National Institutes of Health and the World Health Organization have all labeled suicide as a public health crisis and epidemic in our country.
Oh, wow.
Had no idea.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was at that level.
Oh, it's astronomical.
Yeah.
And so in this research, we find that a lot of the Midwestern states, Jerry, right? Like Minnesota, Montana, Oklahoma, Nebraska, all the Dakotas, they have very high levels of suicide. Mississippi is in the top 3%.
Wow.
Of suicide. Yeah. Finding out that it's a lot of the rural states that have this issue because of poverty, loneliness, feeling like they're outcasts. A lot of states just feel like they're not up on top, they're not New York, they're not California, they just feel like they live in the country. So a lot of that has a lot to do with it as well. But that started the passion of that research.
Yeah.
And with it being an epidemic and a crisis in America, Suicide Watch and Wellness Foundation has got to become a national name. I mean, I want it to be a household name by 2026.
Cool.
That's our goal.
Yeah.
But like I say, we didn't know anyone in Oklahoma and all those states, but we have a very good friend in Mississippi, and that's what brought us to Mississippi.
Okay.
And if you remember, early in 2019, every 17 minutes, a lot of somebodies were taking their own lives.
Right.
Then it went to 2 years ago, every 12 minutes. Now it's every 11 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So like I say, that's it. We're like all in now. We have to figure out what we're going to do about this.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something interesting is that we also thought about, there's a lot of organizations that talk about suicide prevention. Okay, but then why has suicide gone up 30% over the last 5 years? Why?
Oh my
if
gosh.
there's so many organizations talking about suicide prevention. In Mississippi, it's gone up 97% amongst teenagers in Mississippi alone.
Wow.
So we thought about this, like, okay, prevention. Well, it's easy to prevent something from happening. If you don't want the dog to chew your shoe, move the shoes.
Right.
If you don't want the water to boil out of the pot, watch the water, right?
Right.
If you don't want the baby to fall out of the crib, watch the baby. So when you think about it, preventing something from happening is really easy. What we need to do is intervene.
Right.
We have to have intervention.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And when you think about it, prevention and suicide don't even go hand in hand, because preventing something means to stop something from happening, right? To stop it.
Right.
Well, if we think of the Bible days and go back to, Judas and Pontius Pilate, they killed themselves, right?
Right.
So suicide already has happened.
Oh, yeah.
See what I mean?
Yep.
Prevention of the intervention now is to stop an act from reoccurring.
That's one of the most common things that people, when somebody does commit suicide, their neighbors or whatever, they're like, I had no idea they were feeling this way, or they were down, or they were dealing with these things, or, or that it had gotten that bad. Maybe I knew that they had, some family trouble or something, but like, I didn't know it got that bad. And like you said, it's you can't prevent it after it's done. Right.
Exactly. So maybe if people start to rethink, of the way of dealing with this, maybe we'll have better results. Yeah. But one thing we do at Suicide Watch and Wellness Foundation is that I'm so excited about this, Jerry. Right now it's happening in Mississippi, but it's our I Care, You Care, We Care campaign.
Yes. I saw that on the website.
And what we do is that we are encouraging people to make that "Are you okay?" call.
Right.
We have happy cards. I mean, just reaching out to people that we don't even know, right? Yeah. So I could be in Whole Foods or at a restaurant. I hand out happy cards.
Nice.
People are like, oh, I said, I want to give you something. They're like, really? I said, yeah. What is it? Oh, a happy card. Oh, thank you. Many people have said, oh, I needed this today.
Right.
So I love our happy cards.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what got us into this.
Yeah. Well, and and that's one of the things that I do when I'm at the grocery store or whatever. If somebody's eager enough to make that connection of like, oh, hey, how are you? I started doing this a couple years ago. We all have that. Okay, I'm fine, I'm good, right? But then have that next like, no, really, how are you?
Yes.
Like, oh, you care, right? It's not just the informal. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. Like, move on with your day. But to really ask that second question, and then they go, oh, well, I've got this going on or that going on, because then it opens the door, and everybody's always got something going on.
Yes,
that they're dealing with, right? And so, how do we, when it comes to especially like teens and our youth, how do we engage them in the correct conversation to where we can intervene in time and understand that that's going on, knowing that a
Well,
lot of teens don't want to talk.
I think a really good approach is a lot of it has to do with the parents. It starts at home, Jerry, the parents.
Right. Yeah.
What we have to do is we have to not create this situation where we have to break the ice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's not even let the ice form.
Right.
As your children are growing, you have to constantly engage them, constantly ask, are they okay? Constantly ask, how was your day today? What problems do you need to solve? And this has to be constant, though, on a daily, everyday basis. And sometimes I think teenagers feel that that their parents don't understand them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think at that point, that's where the parents have to say, look, I was your age at one day. When I'm your parent. Yes, I am, but I want to help you get through a lot of things. So tell me how your day was. Like, you got to pull it out of them.
Right.
And I think that's important. I mean, everybody's rushed today. No more sitting down at the kitchen table, right? For dinner.
Yep.
And everybody talking about their day. Even mom and dad talking about their day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not very common. And that's one of the things, doing what I do in the health world, that's one of the things that we have implemented so many things that our kids' friends come over and they're like, y'all are weird. Like, no electronics during the week.
Oh, there you go.
Unless it's schoolwork on their school iPad, right? Like, no electronics during the week, no TV, no any, like, we are just like, it forces them to talk.
Yes.
It forces them to talk because they can't go hide doing something else.
You were an awesome dad. All in.
Oh,
I love it.
I try to be.
Health and wellness. You're amazing. That is awesome.
We try to eat at the table, as a family. We try to, initiate those conversations.
Yeah.
But it is hard when, you want to be protective.
Mm-hmm.
You want to protect them from the dangers in the world and all those kinds of things. But when they see their friends dealing with things and they come to have questions, it's like, how do we know where that boundary is? It's like, okay, we can talk about this much and we can talk about that much and really get them to break down. Like,
well, one of the things which is really important amongst friends, okay, when it comes to peer to peer,
right?
I think that when a teenager or even middle school, kids, when they have issues, I think it's important to sort of have the kids come together, like maybe do like group therapy.
Yeah.
Right. Which is really awesome when it just, a group of kids come together and maybe you seem like the awesome dad that would be able to do this.
Yeah.
Bring the kids together and you just sit down and you talk.
Yeah.
Some of them don't have that family that they can sit down with. So, as a community, it takes like they say, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yep.
So as a community, when you know that there's a child, come bring your friends over. Let's everybody come over on a Saturday. Let's go out in the backyard and have some hot dogs and hamburgers and sit down and let's chit chat.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Us adults have to start doing that. It's like, wow, Dad, that was pretty cool. Thanks, Mom. And let's involve them because we know their parents might not be doing that. So now we have to become parents for a lot of kids, and that's what why we have Suicide Watch and Wellness Foundation. We have what we call after school program. It's called the ABC 1, 2, 3. Another issue is that when you don't know how to read, you don't know how to write, you don't know how to count. Now you have low self-esteem, and you feel in school, you feel inadequate. Okay, so those programs are very important. Those remedial, reading and writing and math programs are so important. And then we also have what we have is mental health field trip workshops.
Oh, cool.
So the kids come over and we give lunch.
Yeah.
And then we talk about school.
Yeah.
What you like about school, what you don't like about school, and they're away from school, so they get to really have fun.
Yeah.
And we have an exercise called Circle Up. And Circle Up is an exercise which anybody can do. Like I'm sharing it now. It's so much fun. You just have, let's say you have a group of five kids or even 20, it doesn't matter. But you say, hey, Jerry, what was your problem today? And you'll tell us your problem.
Right.
And then we'll say, hey, Karen, can you help Jerry solve his problem? You will find amazing answers. Peer to
Yeah.
peer, helping each other.
Mhm.
It is amazing. I'm
Oh, I
telling
bet
you,
that
it works
works.
like a charm.
I
So I'm
bet that
sharing
works.
that because I love our circle up. Matter of fact, we want to try doing something like that, like on a national Zoom thing.
Mhm.
That's one of the programs we want to work on, where we can
Right.
get people, on all together from all
Yeah.
over the country, all over the world at some point, and
Right.
just share your problems and let's help each other. We don't
Right.
always have to depend on the doctors. We don't always have to depend on the therapist.
Yeah.
We can be each other's.
Mhm.
We are our brothers and sisters keepers.
Right. Well, and a lot of times, like it from a peer to peer standpoint,
Mhm.
especially, and I'm a lot older than our kids because we went through infertility, and so we had our kids, and we were older. We're almost like when we go to kids things, and they're like, "Oh, are you the grandparents?" No, we're not the grandparents. We're the parents.
Oh, Rob, but you sure look no, you don't
But
look any too much older than 30.
right. But that peer to peer, like especially for teens,
Uh-huh.
when they, maybe they don't trust the authority figures, they don't trust the parents, or they haven't had parents that really bought into them.
Right.
But when they get that peer that then is able to say, "Oh, well, maybe you should just do this or
Yes.
just try this,"
Yes.
it's a lot easier for them to be like, "Oh, okay, that might work."
Yeah, their answers are amazing, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And we've done it with middle school. We've done elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it was so funny one day. We asked a group of elementary school kids, what is, and sometimes another thing too, as adults, we don't have to feel like we know everything.
Right.
Right. So one kid says to me, well, something about snitching. Now I know what that means, but I didn't let that kid know that I knew it. Right. So I said, what is snitching? And he said, okay, it's like tattletale. So we were trying to figure out where was this going? Well, a lot of the bullying comes in like, well, you can't tell.
Right.
Don't you tell that I hit you. Don't you? And so we're like, there's something there where it's like, gives this person, this is, bully power, to be like this ringleader that's doing things to kids and saying, but you better not tell or else you're a snitch or whatever. So, there's something in there. And it starts as young as elementary school.
Yeah. Well, and bullying is one of the top reasons that suicide in youth is like on the rise, right? Because we all know that bullying is on the rise, especially when it comes to the cyberspace area.
Yes.
In the teen area, especially it's, in some of these apps that, nobody ever knows what actually happened because it disappears and, the kids are smart enough to erase it or whatever. It's like, so that bullying piece is really huge when it comes to suicide prevention.
Yeah. And think about this too, Jerry, back in the day when kids would bully, it would be on a bus.
Right.
Right. Where you have to face this person.
Mm-hmm.
When they bully, cyberbullying, that's a coward.
Yeah. You
don't even know you don't even know this person.
Right.
So that's why it's so imperative that parents, you were asking about different apps. And there are a few apps there's one called Face Up. Mm-hmm. There's one called A Friend Asks. Have you heard of that one?
Yep.
And one, and Stop It.
Yep. Heard of Stop It.
And so these apps that can be used that can deter, these students away from, those apps that create this cyberbullying community.
Right.
What it really becomes, because there were several young children, like 6 years old, 8 years old in Alabama, and even here in Mississippi, who took their own lives because of bullying, and they even tell them how to do it. Oh, this is a real. Wow. Here's one with the little kids, the elementary school kids. Say, I'm mad at my dad. I'm mad at my mom. Mm-hmm. And so the other kid will say, well, this is what you do. Kill yourself, and that'll fix them. Well, at 6 and 8 years old, they don't really know what kill yourself means. They think that it's something like when they watch the Roadrunner. That's nothing, cartoons.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, they'll just come back. What is kill yourself?
Right. Exactly.
But when they get that rope around their neck or that necktie around their neck and realize they can't get out of it.
Yeah.
A lot of times they didn't mean to do that.
Right. Right.
But so they're being told even how to do it. And that's what we have to protect our young people from, that type of, education, I guess you could call it, education on how to kill yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to, and I agree with you that it's the parent influence and it's that open communication that needs to be there to be able to say, okay, for whatever reason, it was a bad day or a bad week at home, and my friend Johnny told me to just do this and to take care of it. And you go to have that communication to where your kid comes home and goes, "Hey, Johnny told me to do this to like, is that okay?" Like, right. Like, cause then that will blow up the community,
no, that's
right?
not
Like
okay.
that'll be like, because believe me, the parent would be on the phone with Johnny's parent going, "What the heck's going on?" Like,
Another important thing too is television. What our children are watching.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things on television that they try to imitate.
Yep.
And they try to emulate these characters, and that's very important as well, to make sure you mind what your children are watching, and and they can watch it not just on TV, they can watch on their phones.
Oh yeah.
So that again,
anywhere.
that parental guidance is really important.
Yep. And one of the things that I think really, it when I was a kid, it wasn't even really known, is that the brain's not really even fully developed until you're like in your mid-20s, and so you're still going through a ton of developmental issues just in the organ itself, not to mention what your mind's thinking and what's and so with add in all the other stresses of life and the pressures that we're under, like it's no wonder that we're seeing an increase in suicide in that age group between teen to early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, so like what are other things that we can do as both parents, but also as just community members to take care of our community, to be able to say, hey, whether it's mentoring at a school or whatever, like what can we do to be like, no, your life's valuable, let's not go down that road.
Well, one thing I love to talk about is that it has to do with medication.
Okay.
We need to stop over medicating our country, let alone the children are one thing, but the whole country's over medicated.
Yep.
So here's the thing. It was a story that this lady, her name is Amanda, and she told me this story about her niece.
Mm-hmm.
Her niece was, at the time, she was 12 years old. Okay, very much like your age group, 12 years old.
Yep.
And she was really like amazing in school. She was a cheerleader. She was the captain of the cheerleading squad. She was also the editor of the school newspaper. She was everybody's friend. Everybody loved her. Her name was Jenny. And one day they got in a car accident, and she happened to be sitting behind her dad.
Okay.
And this story really breaks my heart every time I tell it, but they had somebody jumped over and hit their car head on, and the dad, he was a big guy, like almost like a bodybuilder or something, and his seat went straight back into her face.
Ooh.
Because her eyes were as big as baseballs.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And she had 6 months of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then she goes back to school after they think all is well.
Yeah.
And when she goes back to school, she starts having vertigo. She starts feeling claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. Doesn't want to be around friends. She's paranoid.
Right.
So the first thing they do is they put her on medication.
Yeah.
And over the years, 12, 13, 14, they keep changing this medication because, like we were discussing earlier, the brain has not fully developed. It continues to develop. And therefore, you put these children on this medication at a young age, you have to constantly change the medication as they grow.
Right.
Because after a while, it's not working or whatever. And so every time Amanda said that they put Jenny on medication, they were always on suicide watch.
Oh, wow.
Because in changing the medication, she would always become suicidal.
Wow.
So okay. And she wanted to go to college and everything. I mean, it's just crazy. When she was 19 years old, there was a doctor they went to, and he says, okay, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 7 years of medication.
Yeah.
He said, let me check something, because it seems like we keep changing this medicine. What's going on? Now, Jenny is, of course, she cannot go to college. She cannot be by herself. But this doctor was smart enough to check something else. And guess what he checked?
I have no idea.
Her peripheral vision.
Oh, really?
Her peripheral vision.
Huh.
That's all.
Being smacked in the face with the, yep.
That's all she needed. Not medication. She just needed her peripheral vision, corrected.
Yeah.
And that is what threw her down that path of medication.
Wow.
And, so it's a sad story, but it made me think about this medication thing. And I'm like, what? There's other therapies.
Yeah.
Jerry, there's other therapies.
Oh, yeah.
There's dance therapy, poetry therapy, drama therapy, equine therapy, pet therapy, gardening therapy, culinary therapy. I mean, let's music therapy. There's so many other therapies, drama and dance therapy.
Yep.
That we can involve our young people in, right?
Yep.
And then they'll find themselves. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
They're just putting them on Ritalin or Medicaid. I hate that. Oh, they're too hyperactive. What is hyperactive? Let them go outside.
Right. Exactly.
What is hyperactive in a kid? I don't understand that.
Yep.
I don't.
Well, and that's like, well, if my son was here, I could show you because he's been diagnosed with ADHD and he's not medicated. We treat it with his diet. We treat it with like you said, with like, okay, you know what? Well, then this happened yesterday. He came home or it happened Monday. He came home and, we looked through his homework. He had missed an assignment on Friday and he's in 6th grade, right? It's no more hand holding. It's like, you got to do your thing. And he can't pay attention enough, missed the deal. And he immediately starts crying like he's in massive trouble and all this stuff.
Yeah, sure.
First week of school, right? We're like, no big deal. We're still learning.
Right.
We could come down on him right then, but we've known, like, now we're like, no, we can't do that. He is emotionally way too overcharged. Yeah. And so we got to let him come down. Once he comes down, then we can go, okay, let's have a conversation about homework, how 6th grade works, what they expect from you. Wrote his teacher, hey, this is what happened. You need to be a little more aware of him, right? Yeah. Trying to get that involvement, because the other side of it could very easily go down to, well, then he gets behind and then he becomes the stupid kid in class, right? Yeah. And then the bullying becomes along because, he answers questions wrong or he doesn't do well on his test or something like that. And then the other kids in class can start going down that road of like, because we all know somebody who has had that happen to them.
Yes, definitely.
And so I agree with you that medication piece is just, there's so many other avenues out there that we can take that are not that long-term damaging.
Right. I'm so proud of you. Oh my God. Thank God he's not medicated. Now, I want to say this too. Remember this, the power of the furry friends. Do you all have furry friends?
Oh, yes.
The power of the furry friends. They are amazing.
Yep.
The emotional therapy dogs and cats. Oh gosh, they are the best.
Yep.
But that's good. But I want to say something else too. And I want to put this out there. I thought about it the other day. F is, everybody says F is for failure.
Right.
But no, I say no, it is not. F is, ready for this? You fantastically just don't understand. And so we'll fix
That's
it.
True. That's true.
Work it out.
Yep.
Let's turn the negative into a positive. That's another thing too. There's so much negativity going on in this world that if we could just have more fun, that's another thing we can do with our young people. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
Let's make some ice cream.
Right.
Let's engage them. Not medicate them.
And there's so many, like, we have become a very siloed, especially with our kids. Like, you go to school, you do this. It's not, like the Little House on the Prairie days where it was like, you go to school for a little bit, but then you go home and you do all your chores and you learn how to do all these other things in life. And now it's like, I mean, I know high school kids that to get to the college that they had, wanted to go to, and that they got up and did homework in the morning, went to school all day, got home, do homework for 4 hours. And I'm like, what kind of life is that?
Yeah. Right.
And so, of course, you're stressed. Of course, you're under pressure. Of course, you've got all these things. Now, you've got goals, and that's great. But there's a lot of people that can't balance that. And then it becomes like, do you really want that type of person in our workforce later on?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I mean, well, that person is going to end up being probably over the top with a micromanagement.
Right.
I'll become a micromanagement type of a person. But I want to say this too about parents when you talk about that. A lot of parents put a lot of pressure on their children too.
Yeah.
What you just said. Yeah. They got it, get that A, get that B, because you got to go to college, got to do this, got to do that. And that pressure mounts. There are a lot of folks, students that have taken their own lives. And I mean, at Yale University, jumping out of windows. not just the Ivy Leagues, but and also during exam time. So another thing we have Suicide Watch and Wellness, which we're excited about, is we're starting to create what we call SUI care packages.
Oh, cool.
Care packages
Nice.
that parents that they can send to their their children that are off to college or but even at home. What about this? What about when your child comes home from school? Hey, I got a SUI care package for you. Oh, what's that? It might be a bag of popcorn. Who cares? It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's saying, I appreciate you. I'm happy you're home. How many parents don't have the joy of their children coming home because there was a Parkland shooting, school shooting.
Right.
Think about it now. I mean, that's also stressful. Kids have to what's going to happen. We have to have a gun. What do you call it? A school shooting. We used to have fire drill exercises.
Right.
Now we're having
all these other drills,
shooting exercises.
Yep.
I mean, that's stressful right there.
Oh yeah.
And it builds up a lot of fear.
Yeah.
Kids are scared to go to school.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. So school is supposed to be a safe place.
Yep.
And when parents send their children to school, they should feel like they're going to that second home.
Right.
Yep. And so it's sad too. So now you have parents. I mean, oh God, the ones that, their kids have died in these school shootings. They need counseling. They need help. They feel guilty.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Someone said that he didn't feel good this morning and wanted to stay home. And I know you got to go to school.
Right.
So we have a lot of parents that again, that's where our organization comes into play, where we try to reach out to, to these families that are in distress. I pray that one day we will be able to be almost as big as the Red Cross. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so what just happened in Maui? Do you know how many people are oh God, they're stressed. I don't know who's thinking about killing themselves because they just lost everything. They can't find their family members. How neat would it be when Suicide Watch and Wellness shows up? And guess how they're going to know it's us? Because we're going to have somebody with us.
Right.
For a friend.
Yeah.
So when they see us with that dog who has on their vest, and we have one, we're bringing happy stuff.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I pray that we can really get that going on. I wish that we had it already, but we don't. Well, we're partnering up though with some of these trainers that train, dogs, to be emotional therapy dogs. And so we're partnering up with some of those people across the country. And I just wish we would had it already set up. So we would have been in Maui already.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even, when the flooding, we'd be in LA already or something. That's the only thing that makes me crazy. It's like, we have to hurry up and get this done like right now.
Right.
So that's why
for whatever reason, that's making me think of like, of what Mr. Rogers used to say, whenever a really horrific accident happened or something happened, and he's like, well, what do you tell the kids? You tell the kids to look for the people that are doing good, right? Where's the good in it, right? Where are the people? Because we live in a world that's there's going to be tragedy, there's going to be accidents, there's going to be things that happen, and so you can look at that, and it's especially dangerous if you look at it and you're already considering suicide, and your friend committed suicide, or there was a big actor like Robin Williams who committed suicide, and you look at it and you go, well, they had everything in the world and they couldn't. Like, well, then how in the world am I supposed to manage? Right. But to then go and look and say like, oh, but there's people that can help.
That's right.
Right. There's people that can help. There's people that are offering assistance sometimes to just listen. Right. That might be all it takes. Just
an ear.
Yeah.
Yep. I just, I know you heard about what happened in Dayton, Ohio, right? That school bus, the kindergartners. I think one of the kids didn't make it.
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's so we have to have our tentacles all over. So right now, Suicide Watch and Wellness should be there with our doggies over there helping at that school.
Right.
With those folks. So that's the only thing that makes me go nuts. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have got to hurry up and do this.
Yeah.
Money from heaven. Come on, God. So we can just set it up.
So we've talked about, like, obviously there's social media, there's all these things, but what are some good things that we need to be pushing our kids towards to really help them like navigate the societal pressures that they've got?
Mhm. Like I say, I would say arts.
Yeah.
Healing is in the arts. Give them a pen, give them some paper, give them some crayons, get some paint, paint a canvas. I mean, and I'm not even talking, and the reason I didn't even say sports is because that's gotten to be too much.
It can be competitive. Yeah. It can be way too competitive.
It's competitive. And the culture in sports is not even appropriate as far as I'm concerned. Right. I asked a coach one day, I said, we were at a game, it was a soccer game, and I heard this girl and she's yelling and calling the other one a name and whatnot, like, I'm going to kick your whatever and this, that, and the other. And I said to the coach, I said, why are they talking to each other like that? Why aren't they more or less hugging the other team?
Yeah.
And saying, hey, good, let's have a good game. Why are you out there trying to intimidate and bully? That's not how you win a game. So the whole culture of sports is really bothering me now. So I'm talking about art. I'm talking about fine arts. I'm talking about reading a book. I'm talking about creating a story. Give them, like I say, give them a pencil instead of a pill. Give them give them a book. And another thing too that's exciting. What about taking them to the zoo or to somewhere? I mean, do something like that.
Yeah.
Take them.
Well, nature has got a ton of healing properties. And so go out and just and from a parent standpoint, because I know sometimes it frustrates me if my teenager doesn't want to open up and tell me what happened on their day or whatever, and I'm like, oh, how can I ask another question? It's like sometimes it's just okay, let her have her space, and then come back to it later when I've distracted her by being outside, by being something, and it's like, oh. And sometimes it doesn't have to be face to face, right? Like sometimes the best conversations are you're both looking the same direction. You're not actually looking at each other, but they can have that feeling of like, okay, I'm not intimidated because you're staring me in the eye.
Right.
Trying to figure out what's going on. Like you just started talking. I
was going to say, y'all have any good ice cream shops around there?
Yeah.
There you go. Yep. So you feel like you want to get there. Hey, guess what? What? Come on. Where are we going? Come on. Where are we going? Go and get some ice cream.
Yep.
Yeah, and that could start just in the car. And it'll start opening up conversation. Yep. And once they say one word that you feel like this is your end, there you go.
Yep.
Conversation is going. By the time they eat the ice cream, you'll hear everything.
Exactly. But the other thing that you mentioned which is so true, and I've heard this so many times, especially like I've seen parents that have commented or posted something on Facebook about like, my teenager was really, starting to get depressed, starting to get whatever. And then I gave her a coloring book and all of a sudden she just starts coloring and it's like, everything's great. And so now, she colors every day for a little bit before whatever. And I'm like, and I've heard that type of story so many times that sometimes, we look at them and we put all this pressure on them, right? They're in middle school, they're in high school, they've got to achieve all these things. Sometimes we got to remember they're kids.
That's right.
Right?
Kids first.
Yeah. And like,
I don't want to grow up. My toys
right? Exactly.
If you think about it, we're all just big kids.
Yeah.
And kids are just little people.
Yep.
With big brains. They have a lot to say. I gave a little girl, she's 8 years old, and I gave her a happy card.
Yeah.
We're online at Whole Foods. And I gave her a happy card and she said, oh. So I said, do you know how to read? She says, of course I do. I said, oh, good. I said, can you read that happy card? And it talks about, are you okay? And ask them and be amazed that someone, I can send you one, email or something. But I said, so then it says, ask someone if you're okay or something. So then she looks up at me after she reads it and says, are you okay? And I said, I am. I said, are you okay? She said, I am. She goes, now, I want to ask you a question. I said, oh, really? Okay, ask. What's the question?
Yeah.
He said, I want to know, are people who are bad, do they get a happy card? And I said, what do you think? She says, no. I said, okay, then. She said, but you know what? Can I have 3 more? Because I have 3 people that I could think of who need happy cards. I sure did.
That's cool.
3 more. Wasn't that cool?
That's cool.
Oh, man. I'm telling you, Little
Yeah.
people, big ideas and big brains. I love them. Those
Yeah.
elementary school kids are amazing.
Yeah. Well, and like as much as we think that they're afraid of so many things, they're really not.
Mm-mm.
Like a lot of them will just go up to whoever and start asking questions
Uh-huh.
if they feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
right? If they feel safe, they'll just go up. And if you start the conversation like that,
Yes.
and so keeping that, I think is also a huge key when it comes to teens. I've been a coach of different teams from junior high to high school, and thankfully all of my athletes have always said they love me. I had one who now he's remodeling houses. I had him come look at my house to do some stuff, and we're in the backyard and he's talking and he's like, dude, you were like my favorite coach. And I was
Oh,
like, oh, cool. And I was
what
like,
did you
why?
coach?
Track, and I've done a little bit of conditioning with
Oh,
football.
track and field. Oh,
And
okay.
and I said, what? Why? Because he was on the football team, and all I did was conditioning for about 10 or 15 minutes of practice, and then I left. And he was like, you were always honest. You told us
Oh,
exactly what you expected from us, and I always felt like I could come talk to you.
oh, that is
And I was
so
like,
cool.
and that's, I think, if, like you said, if we pull off the competitive piece a little bit and go back to like, okay, they're little humans,
Mm-hmm.
right? And remember where we were when we were little humans. Like, it's not easy.
Yeah. I don't even know why I asked what you coach because I remember reading you getting a scholarship
Yeah,
for track.
yeah, yep.
Oh,
So,
that's cool. I could figure. Awesome.
so how common is it for somebody that is considering suicide,
Mm-hmm.
right? How common is it that they would maybe not reach out and say to somebody, hey, I'm thinking about killing myself, but like just drop a hint that later on somebody goes, oh, I totally missed it. Like they were talking about something that,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was, I'm in such a depressive state, you know, or even talking about, I would imagine somebody who's in that situation might be looking at ways to commit suicide. And so it's like, oh, did you hear about so and so? And bringing up other things
Mm-hmm.
to trigger that. How common is that versus just people saying, oh, we had no idea that they were going to do that?
It's more common that people say they have no idea.
Okay.
Although there is one sign that seems to be a common denominator,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lot of people when they are thinking about taking their own lives, they start giving away things.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. They start, giving away their favorite dress or favorite this or packing up stuff and start, giving people things. I know you said you like my watch, so I want to give it to you. That's a sign.
wow.
It's a sign that something's going on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep, it is. And I've heard several stories about that where people say, oh my God, I knew when he started giving things away, I should have, let him not go to work that early or something. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
several stories about this. I said, uh-oh, is that a common denominator here? I'm hearing something interesting
Yeah.
because usually the ones that they mask it very well,
Mm-hmm.
right, with the smiles and everything. And a lot
Yep.
of times when folks are on medication, they said, but they seemed so happy yesterday. A lot of times they'll take themselves off the medication,
Oh, yeah.
and then they're like, why are they happy? Because they
Mm-hmm.
finally decided that I know what I'm going to do, and that's why they're happy. That's
Right.
another sign.
Yeah.
So there's several signs. They're very subtle, but not
Mm-hmm.
really if we're watching.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so it's that I finally have a solution. So I'm
Yes.
at peace.
Yes.
And so that changes the demeanor. And then it's
Yes.
just a matter of they figured out what they want to do. When is it going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep. And as a matter of fact, we've talked to some people that have survived, thank God, but they usually know, well, I don't really want to kill myself, but I want to feel like I'm killing myself. So they'll
Mhm.
swallow a whole bunch of pills.
Right.
Hey, this girl we know, Anna, she did that like 3 times.
Yeah.
And I said, but Anna, she said, I know. I was feeling really depressed. So it was to get attention.
Mm-hmm.
When she swallowed all these pills, she would wake up in the hospital and there would be all
Right.
these good people looking at her.
Right.
So sometimes people need attention. They need to feel like they have some self-worth.
Yeah.
But Mark Twain wrote that the 2 most important days of your life right? The day you were born and the day you figure out why.
Yeah.
And so once you know why you're here on this earth,
Yep.
then you do your God's chores. You understand why you're here.
Yep.
It's the folks that don't understand why they're here that end up losing their self-esteem and end up losing their way. They end up losing the whole compass of what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
And they get all confused, and then that can create depression.
Yeah.
So if we can help people, that's why I go back to the arts. If we can help people, through the arts, understand why they're here, I think it would be amazing. I think we would make some headway. Yep.
No,
and stop them from getting pushed over the edge.
Yeah, I fully believe that. And the other piece of that is once you find out why you're here, understanding that nobody else has to understand it.
Right.
Like if you find out why you're here and you're here to be a painter and everybody tells you you'll never make any money. There's no money, you're going to be a starving artist. You're going to Why don't you go do something with technology where you can make some money, But if you know this is what makes you happy, then figure out a way. There's ways, right? And you may have to do some other things that don't make you happy, but don't give up on the thing that does.
That does. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I love that too, because now we go back to the parents. Oh, I want you should be a doctor. Oh, you got to be a lawyer. Oh, you have to be this and that. It's like what? Another thing too, we found out that in some of our research that as an early age, I mean, as young as like 1 year old, you can kind of see what your child is kind of leaning toward.
Oh yeah.
You should. So we should be, encouraging that. And giving all the tools they need to develop that. Instead of saying, I don't want them to do that. I don't want them to be an actor. I want her to go be, be a, an attorney or something.
Yeah.
And like our movie, Dead Poet Society.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Perfect example. Neil.
Yep.
Neil wanted to be an actor. You saw that, right? And then what his dad, he's sending him to military school, and you're gonna be a doctor, and that's it, and and you see what happened. So a lot of times I always tell parents too, I said, don't force your child to do something that they don't want to do. Don't try to push them into a box where they don't want to be.
Right.
Because they might not get out of it at all. Sad. But another thing too, Jerry, even in watching movies, there's so much to learn in movies, but sometimes I think people are now just watching movies just like, it's just like going like passing by. It's like they're like deadpan. Like, are you really paying attention to the message of this movie?
Right.
So we talk about. I call that suicide by revenge. In Poet Society, he was getting revenge.
Yeah.
Look at Officer and a Gentleman.
Right.
Why did Sid kill himself? Sid killed himself because he felt like he was useless. He felt like he could never hold a stick to his brother.
Yeah.
He and that girl, the girlfriend. She just wanted to travel. She didn't like him, really. He fell in love with her. So relationships are very important. There's several journalists that have taken their own lives because, the fiance broke up with them.
Yeah.
So again, people lose themselves. You got to find out why you're here. Don't lose yourself in somebody else's here kind of thing.
Yep. And speaking of relationships, and I know this isn't necessarily a suicide thing, but it is like, there's so many times I've seen this where it says, like your spouse's job or your significant other's job, their job is not to make you happy, right? That's your job. Your job is to make you happy. And so figure out what makes you happy and do that. Yeah. And then the significant other's job is to accept that and come alongside and make themselves happy. And then, and you might find out that y'all can't be happy together because you have things that are just so different, right?
Right.
And that's okay. It's not a matter of like, and I think that's a big thing when it comes to bullying and with teens. And it's like, if you're going to be in our group, you have to do things the way that we do it.
Yes. Oh, the cliques.
Yep.
The cliques. Yep. If you want to be in our group, and that is like a pack.
Yeah.
It's like a pack of wolves. It's like, what is wrong?
Yep.
Everybody, we're individuals.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that the sooner we all realize that, I think the better we'll be as well.
Yep. I agree.
And also, did you ever see the movie? I love the movies thing because I was trying to say that We're watching these movies passively.
Yeah.
And we're not really absorbing what the movie's trying to and to tell us or to teach us. Do you remember the movie Ordinary People?
Oh gosh.
Remember
It'd
that?
be a long time ago. I know it, but it'd be a long time ago.
It was the first movie Robert Redford ever directed.
Yeah.
And Timothy Hutton was in it. Jude Hirsch was in it.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Tyler Moore played the mom.
Right.
Don Sutherland was the dad.
Yep.
But Timothy Hutton, his character, it was Conrad. Remember, that was what you call survivor's guilt. His brother died in that boating accident, and he survived. Yep. That's a lot of what happened to the Parkland students who took their own lives. They were survivor's guilt. Why did my friends die and I didn't?
Yeah.
And I think that is a hard one. That survivor's guilt. That's a tough one.
That is. But proper therapy and proper community around somebody can help with that. And I think that's a you're talking about relationships, and I think that's a big piece of it is understanding your boundaries, know you have somebody to go talk to. And for those other people to give them grace and be understanding, as opposed to like, no, it should have only taken you 3 months to get over that. Can't you move on?
No. Everybody's time is different for healing.
Yep.
And that's another thing too. So we talked about the arts, but also another thing that is needed in our communities are therapists that don't always have to look for your insurance.
Right.
That don't only give you 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't only, insurance only pays for 5 weeks.
Right.
We need therapists and psychologists in our communities that are going to care about really what they're doing. My mom taught elementary education for 45 years. Whew. After school, she taught second grade remedial reading, no extra pay.
Yeah.
She just knew that if you don't know how to read right now and you're going second grade, you are going to stay after school, and I'm going to tutor you until you learn how to read, because if not, you're going to be a problem.
Right.
In third grade and fourth grade and fifth grade. Yeah. And I can't have that.
Right. That's awesome.
My mom's going to be 89 in December.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, we have talked for a while, and it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but I want to be respectful of your time, the rest of your day and everything. So
I'm good.
Tell us how can people get involved? How can people connect with Suicide Watch and Wellness Foundation? Like, what can they do to come alongside you and help?
It would be great if they go to our website.
Okay.
I have two. Here's Suicide Watch and wellnessfoundation.org.
Okay.
They can also go to MishaICare.com, which will take them to Suicide Watch and wellnessfoundation.org. And then when they go there, we have a lot of fun stuff. Go to the gallery and look at those eye care mental health awareness moments. Hey, write in and say you want to do one.
Cool.
That'd be excellent. Share the website with others, and also click that donation button.
Right. Yep. That's important.
Yeah, it would help get these programs up and running, because I really want to be able to do that. When there's a catastrophe somewhere, we need to be there with that furry friend. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. And like I say, in 2026, we need to be household name. And let me tell you something real quick.
Yeah.
We have what you call sunbeam houses. Okay. So that's where you just come in and you could just talk. That's where we have our mental health awareness. What do you call it? Field trip workshops. That's where we have the after school programs, right? So we want to have those in every state. Depending on how large the state is, will depend on how many of those we need. How large is the city? It will depend on how many of those we need. But to give you a fun example, okay, so the one in Mississippi is called the Magnolia State Sunbeam House.
Okay.
So in Texas, it'll be called the Lone Star State Sunbeam House, right?
Yeah.
And every day we take the different states. Sunshine State Sunbeam House, Golden State Sunbeam House.
Right.
So we want those to be all over very soon. I'm just praying that we can do this by 2026. We can have sunbeam houses all over the country. And then we're working on getting an endowment to get land and start building sunbeam cottages.
Oh, nice.
And this is where people come to get other therapy.
Right.
And you know what? We don't care if you have insurance or not.
Yeah.
You just come over here and get other therapy before you have to deal with the medicine.
Yeah.
Hopefully you won't have to.
Right.
But
Right.
you can imagine it's going to be like a sanctuary. And I hate the kill shelters. So any dog that's too old or cat that's too old or someone who hasn't been adopted quick enough, you
Right.
want to euthanize them? No, you bring them to our Sunbeam cottage and we're
Yeah.
going to have those trainers there to train them to be pet and emotional therapy dogs and cats and horses. And it's just going to be
Right.
amazing. It's exciting.
Oh, that's exciting.
I am
That's
excited.
exciting.
Yeah.
Well, you
So,
are doing great work from a parent who's got, obviously kids that are teens, but also like in that community of it is so needed. And you're doing great work, and I applaud you. In like, if you're listening, please check out the website. Please go and
and
find
there's
a
a
way to
box to
support.
and a box to volunteer. Volunteer.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It's in the different states.
Yeah.
If we can start getting these people in different states, the quicker we can get
Right.
these Sunbeam houses and cottages erected.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So definitely check it out. Thank you so much for joining us and for all that you're doing.
Oh, thank you for the invitation, Jerry. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.